we're talking up front. So on that note, I'll let everyone know that we will be recording this webinar. We will send you guys a link shortly after its completion. A little bit of housekeeping, some general information. If you have a question along the way, feel free to type it into the GoToWebinar question panel. We'll try to answer it with time permitting at the end of the presentation. Also, that little orange arrow up there, that's going to get your panel out of your way. So with that, I'm Wendy Peel here at ReverseVision, and today we're very excited to have two experts from QuestSoft joining us, Leonard Ryan and Carrie Imoni. I was joking with Carrie earlier about Carrie Imoni is how I can remember not to butcher his name. So you're going to hear an in-depth presentation on the effects of HMDA, some best practices that you can do to help prepare. We're also going to have two short demos, one from Carrie over at QuestSoft and the other from our own Jason Price and our product team. Before we jump into the presentation, I'll give you a brief overview about where QuestSoft fits into the product mix here at ReverseVision. Traditionally, our integrated partners and services are staple to effective operations, essentially product fulfillment. The buckets listed on the slide right now are the current areas we support. Valuable to fulfillment efficiency is the ability for you to exploit these services. We're excited now to offer a new category of service that's become necessary due to the new HMDA changes coming out in 2018. That new service is completely outside of the fulfillment area, and it's related to compliance. As I mentioned before, typically fulfillment falls into back-end operations. However, this new category is important at the LO role specifically because that data collected by the LO is essential to the new HMDA guidelines. Simply put, good data is critical for accurate reporting, which is why training at the LO role is so important in today's environment. We're very pleased to have QuestSoft as our referral partner in this category. Leonard Ryan is the president of QuestSoft. He is going to talk to you about the tactical effects of HMDA, what it means to your organization, and the changes your LO should expect with these new rules. A little about QuestSoft. They are a leading provider of comprehensive compliance software and services for the banking, credit union, and mortgage lending industries. We are thrilled to have this new service partnership. And with that, Leonard, I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you very much. And I'm very happy to be here with you today and to let everybody know a little bit about the new rules and what's going on here. So to give you a little overview, I guess, of our history, we currently have about 2,300 lenders nationwide that use our services to make sure that they file their HMDA reporting and several other reporting obligations on time. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and get started here. We do have quite a bit to get through in this limited amount of time that we have. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is the scope of this new HMDA rule that's coming up. You have a difference between what's going on right now for this year and what happens as of the 1st of next year. What's going on this year and the data that gets collected is what you see represented in the green area right now at the top of this slide. What is going to be collected beginning January of next year is all of the other data. The second area, the middle area, are the things that were required under the Dodd-Frank Act. The third area is what the CFPB decided to go ahead and add to the collection process. To illustrate this for you and to just show you the difference in our software for this year and for next year, we have a screenshot here that goes ahead and shows the difference between where we are today on that and where we are as of January 1st. And actually the screenshot that you see on the right, which is the new data collection, this is actually active on our side right now. So companies that do license our compliance relief product are actually receiving both of these screens right at the moment, one for 2017 and the other for a test version for 2018. So that shows you kind of the difference and why this needs to be taken very seriously going into the new year. There's a number of challenges that are coming up. So let's talk about those challenges. Among the challenges are the universal loan IDs, who calculates, who verifies. Now, in this particular case, you're going to see a number of features and a number of functionality enhancements that ReverseVision is doing for you. But you may have more than one line of business. You may have multiple. If you're a bank, for example, you may do reverse mortgages. You may do consumer lending with HELOCs. You may do first trust deeds, standard first in closed trust deeds. So there's a number of different things that you might do, in which case you're going to be bringing into our software, or whatever software you're using right now, you're going to be bringing that in. And we're going to collect that and combine it all together, because the CFPB requires that only one submission be done, which is a combined submission. So there's a new concept called the Universal Loan ID, and part of that is that that has to be unique even if you have multiple channels internally. There's demographic data that's been expanded, so I don't know how many of you that are on the line today have traditionally done HMDA, but if you are doing HMDA presently, the amount of data that has to be collected on the borrower's race and ethnicity has expanded. And it's a rather significant expansion on that. This brings up internal training issues. So you're going to have a situation where as of December 31st, you're collecting information one way. As of January 1st, you're collecting information another. And so, that brings that up. I already did talk about the channel readiness. There's another thing that's kind of going on. This morning, actually, we received the CFPB finally released some things that they were planning on releasing at the first of the year. And so, for example, our programming department is very busy today and for the next several weeks putting in some of these things that we've been planning for a while. But there have been rather significant delays in the CFPB releasing some stuff, and that's causing a little bit of delays in the training. But again, that should be all cleaned up before the end of the year. If you've been on the compliance side at all, there is something in terms of examination challenges for the new information, and privacy and public data still has yet to be worked out. The CFPB has not indicated what they will make public. There are certain things that we're pretty sure that will be made public. We're pretty sure that pricing information will be made public. We're pretty sure that the NMLS originator IDs will be made public as part of this information. But things such as the age of the borrower, definitely credit scores would not be one of those things that would be made public. There's other things associated with the reverse mortgage lender side that I wanted to point out. So right now you have a few items where where you have optional reporting. It's pretty much across the board reporting under the new rule. So you have an optional reporting as of 2017 in some areas which deal with open-ended reverse mortgage, in other words, things that are more of a credit line on that side. Beginning in 2018, that all goes away, and basically everything except a very temporary loan would be reported, and I don't believe that you really engage in those type of mortgages to begin with in the reverse mortgage environment. The reverse mortgages are excluded from reporting pre-approvals. They're also excluded from rate sped reporting. In the 900 pages that the CFPB released, they went through requiring that, but the way that reverse mortgages are designed, it wasn't going to produce a comparative value. And so the CFPB did go ahead and exclude that from rate sped reporting. The other things that they did was basically, again, it doesn't really matter if it's closed-end mortgage, if it's an open-end line of credit, etc. under the new reporting. The big thing is that if there's a lien on the property, then that is pretty much your indication that it will be reported under the new rules. So when is the new rule effective? From what I've already said, you get the idea that it's January 1st, 2018. That is the case in what we're looking at. For most of the new data, there were some things that went into place, and this next slide that should be coming up shortly will go ahead and indicate that we have the quarterly reporting for the financial institutions. If you're a very large institution, meaning that you have more than 60,000 records, then in 2020 there'll be a expansion of that. In the area of exemptions, if you have or make less than 25 closed-end loans, which means less than 25 of these loans inside your company, then you would be excluded from that. But basically everything remains the same on that side in terms of the way that you, the dates that you submit and what's included in that. There was a recent change in terms of the loans and what the rule had said initially and what the rule will be revised to. So the CFPB put out 900 plus pages of information in October of 2015. And then recently, about 4 months ago, they came up with a revision clarification document, which was several hundred pages. And in that, they indicated the things that they would like to change and again, clarify. And one of those was that the original rule said that if you had 25 loans in each of the last 2 calendar years, meaning if you had 25 loans or more in 2015, you had 25 or more loans in 2016. If you had both of those years, then you would report it for 2017, assuming that you had 25 or so loans on that side. In addition, HELOCs and other open-end loans and reverse mortgages with a kind of a line of credit feature in it have a line of 100 such loans in order to be qualified under the HMDA requirement. So those are independent of each other, by the way. So you don't mix your closed-end loans and your open-end loans together and count them as 100. You count the closed-end loans as 25. You count the open-end loans as 100. And those calculations are independently made. In regards to the demographic information, the information, it is expanded in the new year. So if you've never done HMDA before and now you're going to be required to do it under the new rules and the regulations, then there is an expanded data set that's required effective January 1st, 2018. You can collect this information prior to that. The current categories are the categories you see on this screen to the right, for example, for race. It's what you see as the primary categories. So American Indian, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian, those particular categories are the primary categories that you have. Within that now, under the new rules, you have subcategories. And those subcategories are collected based on the borrower deciding that they're going to give it to you rather than through visual observation. So in this particular case, if you're taking the loan over the telephone, you ask, if these things apply. If you're taking the loan face-to-face and the borrower doesn't wish to provide it, then you would decide, but you would decide based on the primary groups, the American Indian, the Asian, the Black, the Native Hawaiian, rather than saying somebody is Chinese, Filipino, Japanese, or Korean. So that is something that is changing with the new regulations going into effect. Now, that's creating some interesting issues. So they also, when you select other, under this. They've added basically a 50-character free-form field where you can go ahead and describe what other is. Well, our preference as a technology company would be, can we just have it say either other and we leave it alone, or can we say leave it, call it other, and then have a listing of categories? For example, it would be very nice if we could just load in the 567 tribes that are in the Federal Register, and if somebody starts typing, it would start narrowing down the list and get to the answer quicker. But the CFPB basically has, at this point in time, they haven't changed it yet, but at this point in time, they basically said it's an open-end field. Whatever the borrower wishes to put in is what they put in. We're wondering what use that will have, so that's kind of a stay tuned item. There are other fields that also have that type of a situation in them. And so it's very, it's very questioning in regards to how all this is going to play out from a operational point of view on your side. And I listed the information in regards to the visual observation confirmation, the fact that it's expanded, so you ask separately for ethnicity, race, and sex, whereas today you ask all together as one item. So with that in mind, and I know I'm kind of going over this a little quick, there is more detailed information if you're interested in this on our website, which we'll be talking about a little later. There's a webinar that I did in conjunction with the CFPB, with somebody who actually put the rule together at the CFPB, and that goes into this a lot more, but I just wanted to, at this point in time, kind of show an overview, give you an informational side, so that the people at ReverseVision, when they show you how they've changed their fields, it kind of makes sense for you. So the other thing that's changed with the new HMDA is this concept of a legal entity identifier and a universal loan identifier. The universal loan identifier actually encompasses both sides of that. It includes both sides of that. The legal entity identifier, and let me give a little bit of a background on this. What happened once the mortgage crisis hit in 2008-ish was that Congress basically brought in everybody to rail them over the coals and rake them over the coals. And what happened was that everybody says, I don't know where the loans are. And that response from HUD and a lot of the other agencies and a lot of the people who originated the loans, according to HMDA, brought up the issue of, well, if this ever happens again, we have to know where the loans originated from, and we have to know where they are today, wherever these bad loans might be. And so this concept of the universal loan identifier basically came out of those hearings that Congress had that led to Dodd-Frank, and this was included in the Dodd-Frank transaction. You can see from the graphic at the bottom that this number is a rather significant number. It basically is 45 characters. When you have everything combined there, you have what's called the legal entity identifier, which you will have to get as a company. Individually, you don't. As loan officers, for example, you're not going to get this, but your company, if it is going to report HMDA, needs to have a legal entity identifier. I'm going to show you where to get that on the next screen that we have here. The rest of that was there basically goes into a number sequence, and again, the people at ReverseVision, when they show off their side, will probably go ahead and add that to the part of the discussion. So what is this legal entity identifier? Basically, there's a worldwide organization that's based in the Netherlands that goes ahead and has been issuing these for a number of years. It's used mostly by banks, some credit unions, but mostly by banks that do international transactions. As of the first of the year, anybody who submits HMDA will be required to have this. You can see that there's actually two links that we have at the bottom of the screen here and how you get it. One is gmeiutility.org. The other one just announced this last week, and so these slides are very updated for you. MERS just announced this last week that they're going to take, if you have an existing MERS number, an agreement with MERS, you can sign into your account and you can have all that information transferred over to the GMI utility company. This does come at a cost. It's $200 plus a processing fee, so it usually ends up being $219 with around $100 annual renewal on this. The next screen that we have just basically shows how it's going to be used in some of the new forms that come out and what some exceptions are. So the legal entity identifier is being integrated into the 1003. It will be eventually integrated into a number of forms in the industry. The 1003, which is the standard loan application, the universal residential loan application, has been delayed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. It won't come out until at least mid next year. However, this information still will need to be collected between that. Even though you do have a universal loan ID, there is one situation, which is shown here as the caveat, for when you might have reporting of the same loan, and that is if you originate a loan, sell the loan, and then you're required to purchase it back, or that loan gets sold to somebody else and you end up going on a buying spree of loans, those are situations that you might end up with that loan back in your pocket. So it is possible that you would report the same universal loan ID twice. Let's go into determining the loan amount. And the front page here is basically approved, not accepted, all the denial reasons, those type of things like that, which are the standard codes, but these are clarified under the new CFPB. So what I did in this particular part of the presentation was just make it so that this is a quick reference for you. In regards to the reverse mortgages, that's on the next slide that we have, and on that, it basically indicates that reverse mortgages are based on the initial principal limit. So, and that talks about the difference between an open-ended line of credit and assumed loans and purchase loans. So reverse mortgages are based on the initial principal limit that's been put out there. The next thing that I want to discuss, and there's probably about 3 more concepts, and then we'll get into the other part of the presentation here, and that's this concept called relied on. So under the current regulations, you might have, for example, a home improvement loan that doesn't have a trust deed associated with it. It doesn't have a lien on the house. Something that might be done for your pool as a consumer loan, but it's home improvement or something like that. Those are going away. From now on, home improvement loans are only going to be associated if they actually have a lien on the house. This is also goes into the concept of why all reverse mortgages are basically going to be reportable. But within that, there's a number of new concepts which are basically called relied on. And this may be something to watch, and not so much with ReverseVision, but with some of your other LOSs, will be some of these areas where you might compute something, or there might be something on the application, but what was actually used or relied on by an investor, by the lender who went to an investor, etc., is different. It's those items that have to be reported under the new HMDA regulations. The main ones that you may have associated with a reverse mortgage would be property value and the loan to value areas that you have here. But just realize that those are things that are coming up that you might want to just be aware of, that this new relied on standard makes it that you need to look at your systems that you're using and see whenever there's an exception that's made, is the exception being transferred to the HMDA side or not. So that's all. I'll deal with that particular part at the moment. Again, it's a concept that it's just something to keep in mind as you're going through. There are a few good things that are associated with this for people who have been doing HMDA for years and years and years. there's a file that's been submitted, then it usually has been 7 months. It comes out in September. The deadline's March 1st. 7 months later, around September, the data comes out, and then everybody jumps on it. In the meantime, what had been happening in that 5-month period was that people had been requested to provide their HMDA data in what's called a public file. That is going to go away. The end of the whole process of that is going away starting this next year. They're going to what's called a pipe delimited format. It's not a big deal to us vendors. This is something that it's a standard key on the keyboard, and it's just replacing what you've been used to with a comma delimited file. There are some webinars and some other things out there, or you may get something in the mail or email that basically warns you of the evils of the pipe delimited format. And again, it's no big deal for us. The new submission process, though, I do want to put a little bit of a warning on that. It is instant. It is unforgiving. When you submit, currently, if you submit for prior to 2017, if you submitted HMDA, you could submit with errors. You'd get back a lengthy report back from the Federal Reserve. They'd say you have like 5 days or 10 days to fix it. It'd buy you a little extra time. That's not the case under the new CFPB format. You submit it. If there is one what's called validity error, the whole entire submission is rejected. So just be aware of that. This particular slide here about what they're going to do if my data is wrong is again kind of an extension to that. You have the same thing. If you have a problem, you can voluntarily resubmit. If the one thing is that this information is going to be available to the public within 1 month is what their plan is of the March 1st deadline. So it's being planned for April 1st. So be aware that it's like newspaper articles. The bad news ends up on page 1, the good news ends up, and the retraction ends up on page 25. So you're going to have that situation in this particular case big time. So it's very important that this gets submitted correctly. Everything in this regulation is going towards automated fair lending. So as I said, there's pricing information. There's a lot of other things that are in this. So it's going to be very, very important about data accuracy. If you have been a loan officer that has put in 123 Main Street or TBD on anything that you've done before, that is going to be severely punished under this new regulation. I mean, now I make the exception for a pre-approval. A pre-approval is by nature something that doesn't have an address associated with it. So take those particular loans off the table here. But I'm talking about a loan, refinance. A lot of times in reverse mortgages, you might have something that's associated with somebody taking their existing home and that has no existing lien on it and wanting long-term money out of that. And so just realize that that's going to be available out there. Reverse mortgages will be compared to other companies doing reverse mortgages, and that will be one of the things that's looked upon. Just to show the difference of what you've got in terms of what will be in the new regulation, I have a slide here that basically shows the current model on the left and the new data fields on the right that will be used to figure out fair lending and fair lending compliance. So there's going to be a lot more analysis and other things like that. So this particular part kind of concludes my part of the presentation. The last thing I wanted to let you know, I think Carrie will probably extend on this, is that there are a number of government places to go. There's the official website for the CFPB, which is the second line there, Consumer Finance Regulatory Implementation. That'll give you a lot of things in a more friendly government way of putting things, but again, it's kind of government way of putting things. I personally will recommend we have a free resource on our website, which is our HMDA headquarters, and that's the first link that's there. So with that in mind, I'm giving it over to Carrie. Carrie, take it away. Carrie, I don't know if others can hear you or not, but you may be muted at the moment.
I'm sorry about that. When I went to unmute myself, I hung up on you all, so I apologize. My name is Carrie Imany. I'm the Vice President of Training for QuestSoft. And as Leonard mentioned, I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about how we are working with ReverseVision to prepare you for the new HMDA. ReverseVision came to us last year and they said, hey, you guys are the experts in HMDA. We want to be able to leverage your expertise with our expert solution, and that is kind of how this integration was born. And just looking at the comments and the questions that have come in through so far, a lot of you already are familiar with QuestSoft, are familiar with our software, which is called Compliance Relief. For those of you who aren't, we have some resources available for you to get access. Many questions came in about will this presentation and will Leonard's presentation be made available to you after the fact? And the answer is yes. ReverseVision will be publishing all of that out. So what I'm going to talk about is kind of our HMDA headquarters and our approach to HMDA, how you can import data from the ReverseVision system into our system, Compliance Relief, and how today you can work with those 110 fields that are part of the new HMDA, basically. We've got a 2018 testing module that's been available since December of last year that allows you to really test the new data a year in advance of when it is required starting on January 1st. I've listed our support number there. You can also email us at support@questsoft.com, or if you're interested in purchasing our product, you can email us at sales@questsoft.com. So our job is to make compliance relaxing, and one of the ways we do that is to get you prepared for the new HMDA. On our website, questsoft.com, we've got a HMDA headquarters, which is kind of your one-stop shop for everything about the new HMDA. Frequently asked questions, and we offer a service called the HMDA Academy, which is free to our customers. It's kind of a one-stop training and coaching resource with job aids and webinars and forums and Q&As and white papers, all that you have access to for free as a QuestSoft Compliance Relief customer. This is a $1,500 value that we're providing out to the market for our customers. You can go to our HMDA headquarters now for free. Just go to questsoft.com, click on HMDA headquarters, access, information about the new fields, how we're preparing for changes, some of the hidden changes in the regulation. Leonard mentioned a webinar he did with the CFPB. That is archived on our HMDA headquarters. You can access it through our website for free. A lot of questions about the Universal Loan Identifier and the LEI. If you haven't already applied for an LEI, you should make sure you do that soon if you are a HMDA reporter. The ULI is something that ReverseVision will be supporting by the end of the year, but it's also something we're supporting, and I will show you that as well. So a lot of good information. As Leonard also mentioned, new HMDA, some of the new HMDA rules came out today. There was an announcement today that modifications have been made to the filing instructions and the data collected. More information on that on the CFPB website. Okay, I'd like to now launch into our product, which is called Compliance Relief. Compliance Relief basically takes your HMDA data from ReverseVision and from any other LOS that you might be using and allows you to work with that data and get it ready for HMDA submission. And our goal is to get to green. We like this pie chart to be all green. And the green pie means that you are ready to submit your HMDA data. And if you're doing this on a quarterly basis, it makes HMDA literally a piece of pie. So what we've done is we've given you the ability to import data from ReverseVision. If you go to our import screen and you choose ReverseVision from the drop-down list, you can then click the question mark here and get step-by-step instructions on how to export data out of the ReverseVision system into the Compliance Relief system. And we don't just work with ReverseVision, we work with a host of different loan origination systems, over 40. So we're kind of LOS agnostic in that regard. If you have HMDA data that resides in other systems, you can easily marry and merge that data into our Compliance Relief software. by simply choosing another system from the drop-down list. And again, we work with over 40 different loan origination systems. Now, I will tell you that we've worked very closely with the ReverseVision team to make sure that they are really well prepared for the HMDA. They were very proactive in reviewing our specs and making sure that all of the data necessary, and then some, including some fair lending data, was present in their import, and that's going to evolve as we move past 2018. So you can import data from ReverseVision. You can also import data from a variety of other sources, including the new comma delimited text file from the CFPB. The text pipe delimited text file, I should say, from the CFPB. And you can import data from prior years and import it into our 2018 test module very easily. We'll change the dates for you and make that work really nicely. So then when you go into loan records, you'll notice that all of your data has been imported. And this is the screen that Leonard showed. Basically, this is a 2018 HMDA screen. So we've got all the new race. We've got all the new ethnicity options. We've got all the new underwriting options. We've also got the ability to put in your universal loan identifier. So if you already have an LEI, you can choose your LEI, and we can actually do the check digit for you. Now, this is something that ReverseVision will be able to do as well, but we do have a ULI calculator. So depending on your application number and your LEI, you can click the check digit and get a completely filled out universal loan identifier. And that is the number that will follow through the life of the loan. So if you're familiar with HMDA, you should be familiar with a lot of this information, with the exception of the new things, the new underwriting information. And what our system does is we take this information, we scrub it for errors, we'll geocode it for you if you want us to. We have a geocoder built into the system that will assign the census tract data to the information and allow it to be prepared, allow it to get ready for HMDA reporting. So if there are errors, we will tell you. Since the new errors and edits came out today for the 2018 HMDA, we will be programming those into our system. We also know, as Leonard mentioned, that HMDA is morphing into fair lending. So we've got an additional fair lending tab in addition to the 110 fields that are part of HMDA that will help you with your fair lending efforts and make sure that when you are examined, you are not, dinged for a fair lending violation. We also have additional info that will help you with tracking for the NMLS, branches, IDs, loan officers, etc. So it's a full package that will scrub your HMDA data for errors, do a variety of reports on your HMDA data, and get that data ready for submission. And as Leonard mentioned, the online submission process will be kind of unforgiving. So you want to make sure that this data is really ready before you click that submit button. And that's what our system allows you to do through our dashboard and through our error checking methods. We've got several reports. Many of you have used our software in the past. I will tell you that all the reports for HMDA in our software have been redone. So you can easily create a LAR with the push of a button. But this LAR has many options. Maybe you want to make it a LAR sorted by income with just quality years, and you don't want to show the private information. That's easy to do using our system. If you run a institution register summary once a month or once a quarter, you can get a really nice snapshot of what's going on in your portfolio. Maybe you've had a market decrease in your home equities in the last quarter. Why? Maybe your rates are too high. Maybe the bank across the street is giving away a free toaster. I'm dating myself. I actually went to buy a toaster the other day and it came with a bank. But, run the reports. Performance by ethnicity. If you don't live in a particularly ethnically diverse area, you might run this report and find that the pie charts are all one color. If you do live in an ethnically diverse area, these pie charts shouldn't be as monochromatic. So it's kind of all based on context. We've got a mapping solution which replaces the map in the lunchroom of your office with the pins in it and shows all the loans on a map. And again, the submission process, trying to make it as easy as possible. So that's what our solution offers in conjunction with ReverseVision. And again, our goal is to try to make clients relaxing. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Jason, and we'll be available to answer your questions a little later. So Jason, I'm going to make you the presenter. Hopefully you will not hang up on us like I did accidentally. I apologize for that. Go ahead, Jason.
Thanks, Gary. I'm Jason Price. I'm a product manager at ReverseVision, and one of the first things I wanted to go over was our timeline that we have right now established out for everyone before I get into what we've done so far in the software. The timeline is available on our support center. It's a support.reversevision.com, and it details out exactly what we're targeting for everything to be done inside of ReverseVision. We've already started adding new fields. We've already made the settings available to collect 2018 data if the lender wishes. We have a place for people to enter their LEIs already in there. And then we're looking at the ULI or the ULI and the data that you have to do at 2018 to flip that all on. So with that, let me get into the software. So I've already created a loan, and one of the main things to realize inside the software is that it's up to the lender to determine if they want to collect the fields for 2018 now, or if they want to collect the fields as of 2018. So that is all determined based off the loan program that is used. So right now, on this loan, I have a loan program that I am with correspondent to RV. If I go to the borrower, I click the demographic info button, and I get the current window that we introduced in earlier this year with the different race and ethnicities for it. I can fill this out, and it will report correctly. If I decide to go with ReverseVision, ReverseVision has decided we want to collect the 2018 data. So I'm going to switch the product to 2018, or to a ReverseVision product. My product has changed, and I'm going to just verify fees real quick so I don't have to do this later. And then I'll go back to the demographic info screen. You'll see right now that if I click here, I get the same screen. That's because we've put another check in that the application date must be in 2017. So I'll go to the case screen real quick, and I'll enter an application date of today. And having that application date there will now, when I click the demographic info screen, will now give you the new screen with all the 2018 data requirement. So this has every single different field that you need right now. We'll be doing some more fields with relied on information later on, but right now to collect the information that you need, if it's a face-to-face meeting, you get some more questions on it. All these checkboxes go back and forth. So I'll just check some here for John. Make John male, and I'll click OK. So this is now stored. One of the other things too is if that policy is enabled, when you go to the application, I'll have to verify fees again because I made a change. When you go to the application package, there will be a new document available that is for that collects this information. And whatever is indicated, we check on the field. So we have this demographic information addendum. We'll preview it real quick, and it'll load up, and I'll show you all the fields that we checked for John should now be checked on the actual application. So American Indian, Mexican, Puerto Rican, other Hispanic, Japanese. If anything gets entered in those free-form fields, it will be exactly printed over here. And if it was face-to-face, it'll check, and they chose something, they would check these boxes. And that would now be included in the application document. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Kelly and let us go for anything else.
Thanks, Jason. This is actually Wendy. Kelly is driving at the moment. So a lot of information has been described right now, and we do have a few questions, some of which got answered throughout the presentation that were submitted when you registered. but a few others that require a little bit more detail, and our friends over at QuestOff are going to help us out on some of these. So the first question that needs a little bit more explanation is, as a PA lender who does not make the credit decisions, are we required to report anything about these loans on our HMDA, or are they reported by the lender who makes the decision?
Okay, so this is,
Leonard?
yeah, I was going to say, this is Leonard, and this rule really hasn't changed, except it's going to be amplified a little bit. So currently, there's the way that HMDA is to be reported today and the way it's to be reported tomorrow in terms of who is supposed to report the loan is the same. It's the entity that makes the credit decision. So if the loan is going to an investor, you're a broker, that's the lender or investor, they're making a credit decision, then they would continue to be the entity that files the HMDA. There is something that over the last number of years, sometimes that line was a little bit more difficult to figure out. And so oftentimes a lender, a broker or a mortgage company wish to represent themselves as a lender, as a direct lender. And so that made it a little bit more difficult to go ahead and say, well, if your name is on the documents and your name is, they're signing with you, and you're putting out a warehouse line, then you're only going to be reporting things that are adverse action. You're not going to look that good to the public, and this other company is going to look really good. The thing is, and so two entities may have reported it, and that would have been an error, but that could happen under today's rule. Under the new rule, the difference is that you have the universal loan ID, and so that will be detected immediately by the regulatory agencies. So it's going to be really important for you to get together, if you're in that situation, be very important for you to get together with your investor and decide who's going to report this as what's called Action Code 1 as originated, and whether or not the other entity is going to report it as a purchase loan rather than originated loan.
Thank you so much. We're going to shift gears a little bit. And can you tell a little bit more about the actual responsibilities of the loan officer and the lender and what the differences are?
In regards to HMDA reporting, so I'm not exactly sure the focus of that particular question, but I'll give it a good shot. Under current HMDA, it doesn't require the NMLS ID now. There's other reporting, so if you're a bank or a credit union, you're registered under the NMLS. If you're a mortgage company, non-depository, you're licensed under the NMLS. There are sometimes it goes both ways. But under the current rules, the mortgage call report and HMDA kind of go along, and there's going to be changes that will be made at the end of the year to the mortgage call report to kind of match up to the HMDA even more. So, but those changes hadn't been announced yet. The responsibility of the data collection person is basically to ensure that you're collecting the demographic data correctly on the loan application. That's the only time is up front when you collect that information. The rest of the information that's associated with HMDA gets changed as you get closer to either denying the loan or a final action or funding the loan. So, the loan amount will, for example, change at the area of funding the loan if it differs from the application. But that information in regards to upfront information, that doesn't change. And so that's the main place where a loan officer needs to really make sure that they're doing their part. And again, the other part would be the address of the property is now being reported to the government. And so again, getting really accurate information up front is going to make a world of difference to how your organization looks to the regulators.
Thank you for that very detailed answer, and it is hard to know the context, so hopefully if anybody has any questions after that, you can contact us via support. We had another one come through. Will QuestSoft provide a new XML import template for gathering data from Encompass reporting tool?
Hi, this is Kerry. I'll take that question. And the answer is yes. We're currently beta testing our new Encompass import. As LOSs, other LOSs come online, ReverseVision is obviously already ahead of the game. But as the other ones come online, we are testing the imports. Encompass is kind of a different animal just because there's this XML export that runs as a report, but we are testing it. We've got beta testers doing it now, and if all goes well, you should be seeing that come out on our download center in the next couple weeks. I'll also just kind of, to sum up a lot of the questions regarding people asking about, I'm a broker, is this relevant to me? And our kind of pat answer, and Leonard, you can kind of expand on this, has always been if you make the credit decision. Now, we do have some questions that say, you know, we operate as a principal agent and do not make the credit decision on a reverse mortgage. So who's responsible to report the HMDA data, the originating lender or the lender who makes the credit decision? Also, how does this apply to canceled, denied, and withdrawn applications? And Leonard, you want to expound on?
Yeah, the place that you might get caught if you're a lender, first of all, if you're a broker, you're always sending the information over to a wholesale lender or someone else. You don't have the official HMDA responsibility. However, the accuracy of the data that you're providing is very important. And there are now things that are associated, such as the NMLS loan officer ID, the originator ID, that are part of the HMDA. That's your ID that's in there. And so the part that's going to be important for you is just getting accurate information over to the lender and to protect the company that's making the credit decision. Now, let's say that you have loans that are not ending up in the hands of a third party, and you're officially a HMDA reporter because of the nature of your business. If there is a possibility that you would be, again, who's making the credit decision? If the loan never ends up in the hands of the lender and there's a statement of credit denial, for example, that's issued and it's not issued by somebody else, it's issued by you, those would be instances where you'd have situations where you would be reporting that if you reach the 25 mark or you reach the 100 mark in regards to the originations for 25 for closed end, 100 for open end. Hopefully I answered that sufficiently.
That was fantastic. Sounds good. On that note, I think that questions are through. We are going to go ahead and close down. I really want to stress the slide that's up here. There is a wealth of information that QuestSoft has put together, and it is free, the HMDA Academy. Make sure you go, learn, contact them, contact us for any information that you need. Again, a reminder, we will be making the slides available and this webinar available at our support portal. Finally, we can't thank Leonard and Kerry enough for their time and their support over this last however many 9 months to a year that we've been working together. I honestly don't think we could have picked a better partner to venture into the compliance services world, and so we really are grateful for their expertise in this area, and we're so happy that they joined us this morning. Thank you all very much, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Way to go, marketing.
All right, we're off. Are you still here?
I'm still here.
Hi,
Thank you, Leonard, for everything. Wealth of information.
Well, thank you. And I wanted to say to Jason that those screenshots really, I'm very impressed with the progress you've made. Really, really, really nice.
Especially halfway through the year. I mean, geez, it's like we're on top of this or something.
Yeah. There is one thing that I am noticing with folks out there on the street right now in terms of some design, just to consider, and that is a couple of the LOSs I've noted have taken that additional, and I don't know if you can do this or not. There's some LOSs that can't address it the way I'm going to discuss, but what they've been doing is they've been taking the way you take an application as being the precursor for how much of that demographic data is displayed. So you might want to consider potentially by the end of the year reversing that order. But